Yeah. All right, got Miss Kristina Roulo. She is a Coast Guard veteran, and she's a disabled veteran and doing picture stuff. And first of all, Kristina, thank you for your time.
Happy to be here.
Well, first of all, take me back. Obviously, military's big in your family. You told me that, your mom and your dad both serve in the military. Just talk about from what you got, like how long were they in the military, what rank they got up, and what was their military experience?
So my father was a SSG drill sergeant in the Army. I believe he did about 8 years. My mother was in supplies in the Army, and that's actually how they met. And I believe they really enjoyed it. It's what brought them together. It gave them a sense of purpose, a sense of pride for their country, and a sense of a structure. At a very young age, they joined at 17. So.
And obviously, having that background, that's got to be neat to have a military background from your parents.
Yes, it's very exciting. It definitely established the framework of who I am today, for sure.
And then you joined the Coast Guard. Just talk about what led you wanting to join the Coast Guard.
Oh, it was a very weird day. 8th grade, as we all know it, the wonderful 9/11 that none of us like to talk about. And I was sitting in it was 8th grade. I was a library aide at the time, and it was a live stream, and I actually saw it live. I saw live coverage. I saw the first plane hit, and then after that, once I saw the second plane hit, I knew it was an act of war. I knew we were going to be going to war, and from that moment forward, I knew I had a calling to serve. I knew it in my heart, and eventually, I ended up joining the Coast Guard.
And obviously 9/11 was, 2001. And then talk about when you were in the 8th grade then, but then talk about, when you joined the Coast Guard, like what year and all that. And then how did that process take place?
So I actually joined, it was a little later in my life. I enlisted at 25. I had already received my bachelor's in criminal justice and homeland security. And it was, I guess, towards the end of my college career. I was a senior. I applied for OCS, and it was the natural thing to do if you wanted to join the military, if you had your degree at the time. And I didn't get accepted. They only accepted about 6 applicants of 1,200 into the officer program, and that's okay though. All the cards laid out as they were supposed to, or they're intended for me. And I became a corrections officer actually after that. And then soon, later on, I think it was about a year after that, 2012, I enlisted in the United States Coast Guard.
So I guess it's kind of a two-part question. Number one, okay, what made you want to join out of all the branches? Because there's, all the branches. Why the Coast Guard, I guess, number one. Number two, what exactly did you do in the Coast Guard?
Okay, that's a super easy question for me. So first and foremost, I had a passion for law enforcement in general, and the Coast Guard had, their entire purpose is for law enforcement, to secure domestic and foreign affairs for the country. So I ended up joining them for that reason. And then also post 9/11, they declared the Coast Guard under the Department of Homeland Security. And that was a huge impact for me with 9/11. So I 100% knew that if I was going to join a branch of service, it was going to be that. And then I also was a water baby. I loved the ocean, loved the waves, loved the surf. And the Coast Guard, it brought it home for me. I knew, I was like, oh, law enforcement on the water, dead giveaway, got to do that.
And then obviously another big thing that when you look at, so you were in the Coast Guard for a total of, you said from 2012 through 2019. So you were in the Coast Guard for roughly 7 years. Mm-hmm. But then you told me you had a situation where you had to get out medically. Could you talk about that?
So unfortunately, so I was stationed in Guantanamo Bay. And I was having an amazing experience I knew I always wanted to deploy. I finally got the opportunity to. And then unfortunately, I ended up accruing or getting diagnosed with a chronic illness, which was an auto or is today an autoimmune disease. And that unfortunately forced me into an early retirement. Oh, I'm
So,
sorry.
no, you're fine. You're fine. So, I guess tell me a little bit about that circumstance, because just I guess, from a middle standpoint or just a standpoint in general, what was going through your mind with that?
I mean, at the moment, I actually was kind of re-honing my call to serve. I was actually trying to, instead of pursue law enforcement at that point, I was kind of reinventing myself and pursuing a totally different world of chaplaincy. And while I was going through that transition, when I fell into this diagnosis of this condition, I was devastated, absolutely devastated. I was in chronic pain at 24/7. I could not get away with it, or excuse me, away from it. There was no escape. I literally could not escape the pain. But eventually I was like, I can't let this pain take me anymore. I just can't. This disease is too bad. I have to find something to live for, to give me purpose. And I found the love of photography, and it absolutely changed my life. It was therapeutic for me. It gave me an escape, an outlet to get away from my pain.
So, health wise, how are you today with the autoimmune disease?
So it's up and down. It's a day-to-day thing, just like any other chronic illness. One day I could be, at an all-time high, and then the next day I'm at an all-time low. I mean, it's always just under the surface. A chronic illness, it doesn't ever go away. It's always right under. It's in the shadows. You never know when it's gonna bust a move. Unfortunately.
So then, and obviously you're deep into photography, and
Mhm.
you linked up with Darrell Owens with the Legacy Group. Talk about, how did you guys link up? Because I mean, you have a passion for photography, especially seems like recently sports photography. And how did all that come about? Because right now, I mean, you're rocking and rolling with it.
Faith. Honestly, I was led to him. I think we were led to each other. He one day was on Facebook, and I guess he was scouting for talent, and I think my photo just kind of happened to graze his feed, and he clicked on it, saw I was interested in photography, and reached out to me. No sports photography experience whatsoever. And he asked if I was interested in coming on board. His name's Darrell Lee Owens of Legacy Maker Sports Network, and he has provided me an outlet to fuel my newfound passion, and it's been the ride of a lifetime. I'm so grateful for him and Legacy Maker Sports Network. They're amazing people over there.
So
Okay.
that was me. That was me. So how long you been with it? I think you told me 2019, but I might be off on that.
Yeah, it was actually towards the beginning of the end for me in my military career. I'm pretty sure he reached out to me while I was transitioning to civilian life, which worked out perfectly. It gave, like I said, it gave me something to do and gave me an outlet, because those 2 years, it was about 2 years previous to me exiting out, and then about a year passed. I mean, I was sicker than gosh knows what. It was a terrible experience, terrible journey, but like I said, it provided an outlet for me. And yeah, it was about right before I got out, I think. So it was about 4 years ago, I think now.
And out of all the events, I mean, over the last 4 years, talk about some of the events you covered, and also, I guess the biggest thing is being a part of the growth of Legacy Makers, because it has really grown over the last few years.
Oh my goodness. So, he reached out to me. I don't think they'd been out very long, maybe a year or so. They're brand new network, brand new on the scene. It's family grown, him and his partner Jay. And I tell you what, the growth just in the past 4 years, it's been huge. It's nothing. I've never been a part of anything like this before. It started from, I believe maybe high school coverage, and then it's taken off to probably, I believe, divisional two, potentially, and high school, and now, and I've this year, I mean, and a few years past, we've broken into huge divisional one teams, UVA, the Tar Heels, Virginia Tech, and now the NFL. It's unbelievable. He's covering the Commanders. I'm covering the Jaguars down in Florida, and we all know the season they've had. I mean, it's unbelievable to see his network, him have this little baby, and it's just growing and expanding, and it's just magical to watch. I'm so proud of him and the team.
And then for you personally, I mean, obviously your career has grown. I mean, you were in the military, and a lot of times when people get out of the military, they have a second life, whether it's being after being a military veteran. But with this second life, after the military, what has this meant to you personally to have? I mean, you were dedicated to the military. When 9/11 hit, you said, "Hey, I want to join the military." But then, obviously, medical condition kind of derailed that a little bit after 7 years, and now you have a second stanza, a second act. How's that been for you personally?
So when we get out of the service, we all had a calling. We all had a calling to serve, and we put ourselves through the ringer to not just get there, but to stay in it. It's something that I've always told people. It requires physical, mental, stamina, day in, day out. It's a constant grind. And then when you get out, especially when you're not ready, and none of us really ever ready, or ever ready, it's scary. It's life changing. A lot of us give up, and we feel like we've lost sight of our entire existence, our whole life purpose. And for me, I've realized with photography and this new journey of healing, that I have a second chance. And I also have realized that our professions do not define us. Our heart does. And the journey, the day to day, it has nothing to do with you put the uniform on the person. You know what? That person's the same when you take it off. It's not going anywhere. We just got to redefine who we are, and figure it out. But remember, at the end of the day, our profession doesn't define us. The character does, in the heart. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but
No, it did. You talk about going into being a chaplain. What kind of almost went into that? Because I mean, that's kind of neat that you would go into that.
So I loved the Coast Guard. I loved serving. I don't regret a second. It was a great experience. As a woman in the or in the Coast Guard, I faced a fair amount of discrimination. So I decided to eventually, after I was involved in law enforcement, civilian, city, and federal levels, and eventually I just decided I didn't want to do law enforcement anymore. I wanted to do something different. So I decided to pivot and pursue chaplaincy. I found a newfound chaplaincy or passion for chaplaincy in the Navy, and I was going to switch branches, and it required a fair amount of study, which I was mentally prepared for. But I knew in my heart I had a different calling, and I did not feel that law enforcement was able to provide that for me, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's kind of where it started. But unfortunately, almost as soon as that journey started, I got sick. But God works in mysterious ways, so that's okay.
And really, that's a big thing. God will open up doors that you need to have open, and He'll close the doors you need to have open. And obviously, God looked at this and says, "Well, I have another path for you." And going into photography, especially with sports photography, that had to be huge. So, God was definitely looking out for you. But, He plants that seed. And when He plants the seed, okay, yeah, being a chaplain is great, but I have something bigger over here for you. So I'm sure that was definitely a blessing.
Oh yeah, I'm being led. I know it. I'm not exactly sure why, when, how, or where, but I'm definitely being led, and I'm open to it. I'm gonna go.
Well, I tell you one thing, now, you're at this point now with your photography and all that. Where do you see yourself going with this now? Because I mean, you're in a prime spot with legacy makers. But what's your end goal? Do you have a goal at the end, or is there like a sporting event you'd like to cover, or is there, where you want to go with this?
So I know the network has some goals. I know they want to expand their horizons, and they want to break out of Virginia based sports, which is a majority of our coverage. And eventually, our goals as a network is to become a live streaming service for sports. For me personally, I just want to live, man. Like every day for me is a new adventure, and when I wake up and I'm not having a flare up, I feel good about the day. I'm truly blessed for anything that God provides or leads me to. The NFL was great, and I'm so excited. Do not get me wrong, but every opportunity for me is a blessing, and every single day is different for me. I didn't plan on having this interview. I didn't plan on doing the NFL. These are not things that I thought or anticipated I would do. I've been led. I've truly been led. So I'm open to anything, any gift, any day. So yeah, that's my goal, is just to have new gifts, new blessings, and be open to them.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, like I said, you've done a tremendous job. Your work is fantastic. And like I said, you're a true blessing. First of all, dealing with your medical condition, and then, like I said, God pointed you this direction to do this. So
Yeah,
congratulations on it. Is there anything
thank
else you'd
you.
like to add, or anything you'd like to say that I maybe missed or anything like that?
No, I think you covered it. This was a great opportunity. This was my first opportunity like this, so thank you. People have been telling me I should do this for a long time, but here it goes. So this is the start, I guess, of something exciting.
Good deal. Kristina Roulo. That's a
Yes,
cool. I tell
yes.
you, I'm glad I got it right, because when you look at your name, it's kind of. I'm sure you probably got Roulo a lot.
Oh yeah, I've gotten Rollo a whole
So
lot.
good. Well, congratulations. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Miss Farrell. For
Farrell.
Farrell.
Farrell. Sorry.
Farrell. Farrell. Thank you
All
so
right.
much. All right, I
Okay.
appreciate you.
Okay. All right.